Alright, be honest now. How many of you are peeved the heck out because I'm missing 2 pickups I should have had by this point? Hello guys, this is UniversalGiant. Welcome back for more of AM2R. Last time we finished off the industrial complex, and today we're going to be getting further down into the planet. However, before we do that, there's one thing I wanted to show off because I made the sound effect for it in the last video, but never really explained it was something you could do. And I believe this is originally from Super Metroid, where if you have a charge held and then you go into the Morph Ball, you can launch a bunch of Morph Ball bombs all at once. And one thing that was added in AM2R is that if you have different directions held when you do that, the Morph Ball bombs will go in different places. Like if you have it held down, makes it nice and easy for you to do a vertical bomb jump. I mean, it doesn't go all the way up, but it makes things a lot easier if that's how you want to move around. And you can also launch them from left to right if you're so inclined to do that. But for now, I think it's just time to head further into the planet, now that that wall's gone. So we have super missiles in hand, which will let us break that. And I don't think there's anything down there for us either. It looks like there's a little crevice where you can get a pickup or something, but there's no such thing down there. Let's see how many Metroids we have left here. I guess we're first getting introduced to what this place is called, the mining facility. Cordite crystals are one of the most durable, naturally forming crystals in the galaxy. Though they're not as hard as diamonds, this makes them a more malleable resource. The Chozo found various practical uses for cordite in constructing machinery or producing works of art. This mining facility supplies cordite and various other materials to the nearby industrial complex. So you may remember cordite, I believe, was originally introduced in Metroid Prime, and it was the thing that you needed the super missiles to break. And apparently this is its raw crystallite form. So that explains why we needed super missiles for it. I was hoping to hold on to that speed boost. I don't know for what. But I think at some point we're going to run into a bit of an impasse, and I think we're going to need some help to get through. So it looks like even though the mining equipment above us wasn't functional, this one still is. Looks like we're going to need to give it some help, though. Usually don't miss. Did I really miss the one block? So we're going to have to give this thing a little bit of help. And now hopefully it's able to continue on its own. Again, I think this is a little thing that was just added for AM2R that wasn't in the original, but I haven't seen the original game up to this point. And I guess if I haven't made it clear in the last few videos, I'm not all that familiar with the original game. So if you know something about it that I don't, by all means correct me or add to the commentary in the comments. Before we move on, I have a feeling we have some Metroids to contend with. Don't know what gives me that idea. Now the one thing is, we're going to have to deal with these. They don't hurt you in any way, all they do is disrupt your space jump. So think of them as like little sticky goop things that you get stuck in, and their sole purpose here is to impede your progress and have you fall in the lava. Very kind of them, I realize. I wonder if it's worthwhile to fire off some supers here against you. So again, what I've been trying to do all this time is try to lure them above me so I have a clear shot at them from below. They really like to get on your level, and although you can shoot them horizontally, it's really difficult to get a shot like that. So just try to move them around. Get him in a position where you can shoot him diagonally, that's usually the best bet. And you can sort of juggle them if you alternate between the missiles and the normal beam that we have. I don't know why that didn't hit you. But these things are just about as difficult to kill in the original game, although for different reasons. In Metroid 2, I can do a speed boost. Maybe I should try doing a Shine Spark through there. In the original Metroid 2, you couldn't fire in 8 directions, you could only fire in 4, and there were a number of other reasons why fighting Metroids in the original was more difficult in certain ways. But to compensate for it, all the additional stuff you're given, additional options, easier to aim in more directions, they made their attack patterns a lot more difficult to deal with. So again, if you can keep this guy above you and just get a clear shot at his underside, 2 supers does the gammas in. So it's really easy to take those guys out if you have some room to work with above you. But I guess that was all that we needed to initiate the next earthquake, so now we can move on to the next area. So back up we go, so we can head further down. I guess this one's going to take us all the way back around in that direction. So unless I find something interesting along the way, I think this is the first time I feel inclined to cut, so I'll meet you there unless I find something worthwhile. And I suppose before we head all the way down, there is one thing I remember I may want to show off now, because I don't know if we're going to be coming back through this particular area to collect anything later. I just forget if it's here. I think it's here. So this is another one of those... I want to say it's a bomb jumping puzzle. At least I assume that's why those little platforms are there. Obviously the space jump makes this trivial. But these are also breakaway blocks, I think, after a little while. So I think the idea was for you to come in here with the high jump and then just jump from one to the next. If you didn't have the space jump. And that's all the way up here. And of course this would also be an opportune time for you to go back and get the secret up there with the 2 stack dots, if you weren't able to get the bomb jumping for that. But since we have both of those already, we're free to move down. And now this area is open. So these things, you're not really supposed to be able to defeat them. I mean, occasionally you can squeak a couple of shots behind them, but you're not really supposed to be able to defeat these things yet, at least not by shooting the... I guess I killed it. And I think the secret is in here. Another set of speed boost blocks. But normally it's difficult to get your shots through their spinning gear blade things. Wave Beam can shoot through walls, but it can't shoot through enemies. We may need another one for that. But as long as you can get a shot behind it, you can destroy it from behind. I usually don't bother with it and just go through. I don't believe missiles affect it. I suppose it couldn't hurt to try. Honestly, don't remember. I have a feeling things are going to be getting a lot hotter down here now for some silly reason. That's why. Also, I might as well show off speed boost wall over there. We're going to be coming back shortly. We're going to have to build up a speed boost in this room if we want to get through there. And unfortunately, we're dealing with a bunch of enemies that don't like dealing, or are very adept at dealing with... I guess we'll knock those down while we're here. But if memory serves, we want to get down on the platform there. So let's get rid of you guys first, and then go. I think this is the height we want to be at. And that gets us through here. But I don't believe there's anything else here, and confusing that with the later room. But this is also the part of the game where the pseudo-screw attack is useful in trying to get rid of any enemies that don't have the sort of armor around them that these floating grabby guys do. But now that we have a little preview of the kind of area to expect, I guess we have some information on our new one, the tower. This facility is operating on an emergency power supply. Thermal readings indicate that there is at least one functional device located deep inside the building. And although there are a number of things we could do before we do that, I have a feeling that that's probably the first thing we're going to want to do. As you can see, there's not much going on here. The power's off, everything's dark. But the tower is someplace that had an important use in the original Metroid 2 that is no longer useful or relevant in this game. Aside from it having a weapon that was not in the original game as well. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we have a way to access that. So we're just going to have to work our way down the tower and pray we can come back up. But in the original Metroid 2, the tower had the express purpose of making it easier for you to come back and get certain weapons if you need them. If you ever played the original Metroid, you'll remember that it wasn't until Super Metroid that beams became stackable. So in this game, every beam that we've picked up has essentially added on to the original beam that we had. The charge beam allowed us to charge the original one, the wave gave us a little extra verticality with our shots, and the spacer allowed us to shoot 3 projectiles instead of 1. And unlike the original game, all of these stack together beautifully. You don't have to select each one individually and then leave whatever existing beam that you had in exchange. So in the original, if you wanted to use the ice beam and you had the wave beam, you had to leave the wave beam when you swapped them. And if you wanted to get the wave beam back, you had to abandon the ice beam. Looks like we finally powered on the tower. The immense tower houses a weapons research and development facility. The robots patrolling within are combat drones equipped with weapon prototypes and advanced shield plating. They possess superior AI and are programmed to fire at any living target, keeping the tower sterilized of organic matter very efficiently. Proceed with caution. So since the tower originally served as being an additional place you could get weapons instead of having to backtrack all the way back to wherever it was you happened to drop off that one beam that you needed. So say I left the ice beam all the way up here, and now I'm all the way down here and I need the ice beam, so I have to go all the way back up and get it. The tower served as a hub where you could get duplicates of whatever weapons you may need. So it gave you an additional location to get those weapons rather than have to backtrack all the way to wherever you originally got them or dropped them off. And of course, in AM2R, since the beams stack, there is no reason to really have that kind of functionality. Since you have the beams all the time, you never have to go back and get them elsewhere. So the tower essentially became a place where there really wasn't much need for. So to compensate for that, they gave us a boss that had some sort of relevance to the way the game was originally designed. The Tester. The unit performs 360-degree live fire tests of prototype weapons. Scans indicate the exterior armor is resilient to beam weaponry, while the interior is further protected by an energy shield that repels solid projectiles. Auto-repair systems in the cannons can mend all damage within seconds. Schematics reveal these systems were applied due to earlier models' cannons being exposed to exceedingly violent tests. Similar to your power suit, the unit's modular design allows for the addition and removal of equipment. So since the tower doesn't necessarily have to house multiple weapons as it used to, they thought it'd be a neat idea if it instead gave us a boss that used a bunch of the weapons that were originally stored here. And I think that's a brilliant idea. It allows the tower to still have somewhat of its original purpose, and it makes for a very interesting kind of boss. So the way this guy works is his outside is impervious to normal power shots, but is able to be hit with missiles. And his inside is impervious to missiles, but can only be hurt by your power shots. And it also drops us in an arena where you really have very little room to move. And since it's extremely vertical, it's kind of difficult to get a good shot on this guy unless you have him against the floor. So what I try to do is just get as much of his outside armor removed as possible, and then go in with the normal shots. But as you can see, these little platforms go away, and they don't allow you to stand on them for very long. So expose as much of the inner core as you can, and then go ham with normal shots. You'd be surprised just how powerful your normal shot can be, especially at this point if you have the wave beam and the spacer. Otherwise, just try to avoid his weapon fire as best you can. We've already seen the ice beam, this is the plasma beam, the wave beam. All the different beams that we have, this thing is able to use. And I've always had a bit of a soft spot for enemies and bosses that are designed to use weapons and abilities that the player is able to use. So this is one thing I particularly enjoyed about Fusion, where all of the bosses essentially absorbed Samus's powers and was using them against us. But this guy gave me a lot of trouble when I first played the game, and not as much now. I usually make much quicker work of him. But I think, considering what the tower originally was, and what it had to be reworked as, considering the new mechanics in AM2R, I think it's a really interesting idea. But now that this is open, the door is working, and we can make our way up to the plasma beam. Now all those annoying armored enemies that were able to block our shots can't block our shots anymore. Even these things. Our shots pierce their armor, so there's nothing they can do to stop us. And of course, the plasma beam was not available in the original Metroid 2. Brand new for AM2R, although it's become staple in a bunch of the later games. So now all that's left to do is explore around the outside and see if we can't find some Metroids lurking around. You may also recognize this particular bit of music. But it's not going to be all happy for long, it never is. We have ourselves an evolution again, the Zeta Metroid. After substantial transformation of its body, the Metroid's power and defenses greatly improved. Though Zeta Metroid can no longer fly due to its immense weight, its new legs are strong enough to carry it and perform great bursts of speed. The arms can deliver powerful strikes, and its mouth glands can spray a highly corrosive substance. Its two prior forms were akin to a pupal phase. Discarding the Gamma Metroid's exoskeleton marked the beginning of its adulthood. So we have here what's essentially a fully grown Metroid. Or hopefully a fully grown Metroid. And this guy can only be harmed in that particular green section. And I believe he normally takes 6 super missiles to kill. And if you fire at the wrong time, he has a tendency to fire off those little sound wave claw things. So you want to make sure that you save your super missiles for the opportune time. Because if you miss more than you need to, you're not going to enjoy the rest of the fight. So now we're probably just going to have to spam missiles and pray that he doesn't kill us. But normally, if you're just standing up, you'll be able to hit him with no problem. At least at the current height that you're at. But he has a tendency to block a lot of your shots if you don't fire at the right time. But as you can imagine, these things are much more difficult to deal with than the alphas or gammas that we've been faced with up to this point. And I know there's one more Metroid directly above us, but I'd really rather have super missiles before we take it on. I think the easiest way to get them back would be a save point that should be right up here. So I think with that, we'll call this one an episode. And next time, we'll explore around the rest of the tower and clear out the remaining Metroids. This is UniversalGiant, and I'll see you then.